Great defeaters, new and old, welcome to another episode of The Breakdown with your hosts, BaseDaKID, Tony, the Pugilist Boy, and we are the children of the game. Tony, how are you, man? How's your weekend been?
Yeah, it was nice, buddy. It was nice. I had a nice weekend, free of any drama. Can't recall what I actually did, to be honest. But there was very little boxing action going on. Oh, I had some family over. Got some family over from the States. So I spent some time with them, which was nice. And
Okay,
yeah,
so
just
drink
enjoyed
must
a bit
have
of
flowing
sun.
if you can't remember what happened.
I know. I'm getting punchy. Might need
Well,
to.
you are still on medical suspension, so
I, yeah,
yeah.
I've been reading those comments. Hilarious.
Uh.
So, how was your weekend and how you been, buddy?
Yeah, it was all right still. I mean, I didn't do a huge amount. Obviously, gym was a must. Got to try and keep this belly down somehow. And I had it was my godson's, he had a party at his house or his mum's house on Saturday. So I went there. Obviously, he shares the same birthday as my mum. So I thought, okay, I'll spend the Saturday with him and then spend Monday with my mum, and yeah, all good. So that's pretty much been my weekend. Haven't been a huge amount going on, but we do what we do. We try and scope out what we can when we can, even to the detriment of our own free time. But say it go. That's what happens when you love something, right? Gotta make
That's
them.
correct. Yeah, actually, I do remember the big thing that happened this weekend was I'm a member of a charity called the 100 Black Men of London, and we had our graduation ceremony on
Oh,
Saturday. So that was a big thing for me. So good to see my mentees and the children that are part of the charity that we mentor all graduating from their year of hard work and endeavor.
no, man! Congratulations. We love to see it. We love to see
We
it.
love
Keep it up.
that. We love that. Absolutely.
All right, but look, that's enough of the festivities. Let's get into the chat. Let's greet whoever's here. Let's give them a good show and give them a quick one so that we can bounce.
Absolutely. So first in the house was Bigsy Biggs. He's come in and said, Tony, you legend. Fire announcement last night. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait. I got a little fire announcement, but you didn't quite you didn't give me my props. I wasn't there to do it with you. But it's like you just want to took the whole credit, like it was you that was sorted. I mean, come on now, let the people know exactly how that came about.
Okay, well, there's no if, buts, or maybes. The whole sole credit for that interview goes to Base. He is the one who was in negotiation with Nonito and arranged the time, the date, the space, etc. So big up to you, my guy. Absolutely
Right.
outstanding work.
Do you know why I say that? And obviously, it's all playful, but it's only because you know how obviously I was the only one on Twitter was talking about AJ versus FA Jagba, perfect preparation and stuff. Now you know
Yeah.
how many different channels and people are starting talking about that as a potential match. And do I get any credit for that? No one. I say a lot, and then all of a sudden, other people start running with it, acting like it was their idea. I know for a fact no one was thinking of them fights before. So sometimes I just have to pull it out there that you lot might want to copy, but understand where it came from in the first place, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. Take your flowers, bro, because you deserve it. The hard work you put in behind the scenes to bring to the table these facts and information, people just don't understand. It's not like you're just sitting on your heels and things are dropping in your lap like that. No, we have to go out. We spend copious amounts of time trawling the streets, getting into gyms, going to functions, networking, making calls, um, all over the socials. It's unbelievable the amount of stuff. And all I can say is, look, I hope to be able to match that kind of uh, person when I'm sitting in Las Vegas, in and around some big names in a month's time.
Of course, that's what we hope for. That's what we hope for.
So carrying
By
on
the
the
way,
list of people in the house.
before we get back to the list, quick question: Did you never did get the Joe Joyce confirmation? Did you?
No, but you know what? Joe Joyce isn't far from me. So in time, I know I will be bringing Joe to the table. I will be bringing other people to the table. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
Those guys will be in situ very soon. Yeah, it's
All right.
just, you know how it is when people are, they're moving around and they're in, they're over here, they're over there. You have to wait for them to be sat in the right seat, in the right place, and then you can go, right, okay, now you're in a position where I can bring you in. You do so. So yeah, that's in work, brother. Don't worry about that. We're working on those things and others.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So back to the acknowledgements.
So big up to Mulla Mulla, as always, very early in the house. Dan the Man, Viral Spaces TV, Chris Collymore, North Bank Brem, big up to you. Iron Man, Jam Down 187, J Lands, Hot Pies, as always. Dark Side of the Moon, G Chain, as always. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, go and hit that like button. Yeah, you can still be watching us. Just take away the comments, and you'll see the like button is still there. Go and hit that like button.
Smash it.
So, where do we start?
All right. So I think it's only right that we start with the heavyweight clash of the weekend. While it wasn't quote unquote a big fight initially, we kind of thought it could be a fun fight, and boy, did it deliver. So let's go there. Then we'll go with the one that you managed to see, which obviously I haven't seen yet, and then we'll end it with the discussion on the 168 division.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Right, so let me start. Let me kick this one off. So, right, so you had Adam Kownacki against Giuseppe Kusumano, aka Joe Kusumano. Now, most people, if you know Joe Kusumano, is because he fought Daniel Dubois in his fight just before his previous one, before this fight, and he was stopped in a round, knocked down 3 times. But I had a feeling that he was a bit better than advertised, but obviously Dubois was just like a much better opponent than he was. Now, in this particular fight, Adam Kownacki's been, look, he's been um, pretty much washed for the last 2-3 years, ever since COVID kind of came out. His style was never gonna lead to longevity. Especially when as you can see there, he's keeping his hands low. When he used to keep his hands higher up, um, he was a bit better because he could absorb more shots on the gloves and kind of walk opponents down. He also wasn't really facing the most strongest of punches at that point either. But he's always had heart. That's one thing you got to give Adam Kownacki. He's always had heart. He's always kind of gives it his all, as limited as he might be. And as you can see in this fight, like he virtually didn't let up on Kusumano the entire fight. Kusumano had the natural advantages in terms of height, reach, and also punching power. He definitely punches the harder out of the two. He's a little bit taller, got a slightly longer reach, which meant that when he wanted to keep Adam on the outside or mid range, he was normally hitting those. He was normally getting to the target a lot quicker than Adam was. Um, but Adam, when he was able to get up close, he was doing a lot of good body work, especially in those first few rounds. But when it just sort of came down to it, ultimately the defense was too leaky, the hands were too low. He was taking those straight shots way too flush from the first round. But the fact that he even managed to make it number one out of the first, managed to rally back in the second, rally back in the third after being hurt, and in the fourth and the fifth. Yeah, it was nothing but credit due to him. Like, we can't even really go into a proper technical breakdown of what went on, because ultimately it was just a case of it was two bulls in the pen. One probably was never been at the level of the other, but the other one is showing signs of age, too many battles and too many wars, slowed down, isn't the same force they used to be, and they just happen to be picked off, ironically, by I guess the slightly it was the fresher ball, but I think Kusumano actually might be a bit older than that Adam Kownacki by a year. So that's interesting. But yeah, he just hasn't had the same level of tough fights. And ultimately, yeah, time caught up with him. I'm gonna let you go, and then we're gonna talk about the how the fight was stopped. Because I think that's a point of contention that we need to speak about. But yeah, go on. Let me know your thoughts of the fight.
So it's interesting that the very last point you make about that stoppage, I saw similar comments by other people, and for that reason, I'm just going to replay the clip that I have, because I want you to pay particular attention to the end of the fight, because to me, it's the towel comes in, you know, the referee, to me, could have stopped this earlier and maybe should have done. But at the same time, Kownacki is throwing punches. So, and just brought that picture in there with Sugar Hill, because that was 7 days before the fight, just so you're aware. Kownacki was working out with Sugar Hill and Ben Whittaker. So that's when I saw that picture. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Obviously, it didn't help him in the end. But what is interesting, as I said, about that stoppage is, even although Kownacki is Kusumano is dominating at the end of the fight, where just prior to the stoppage, Kownacki is still trying his best to throw stuff. His hands are low, but he is actually still throwing punches. So please do look out for that when it does happen, because I don't think you can really call premature if a man is still throwing his hands.
You mean late?
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because look, I don't have an issue. I think it was stopped. I do think it was stopped too late, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look here, right from there, you can see like the legs have been gone from the round before, and even though he's throwing, like
he threw a left hook. He threw a left hook, and
but he threw a left hook to the body which had nothing on it because he had no legs. He had no equilibrium. Like his whole body at that point was. If you look at it, the thing is, remember his whole body. He had no balance from the round before. So even though he's still trading because he's a warrior, he's a fighter, but he doesn't have a steady base underneath him. You can tell that at that point he's in issues, he's in problems. Now my issue with the stoppage is not even the fact that, because you can say, oh well, sometimes you want to just see if he's if he's going to carry on rallying or whatever, but my issue is the corner have said before, if we don't see it, we're gonna have to pull you out of this one, right? The referee, the doctor, has looked at this guy 3 times in this fight at this point. He's looked at Kusumano I think once as well, but they've looked at him 3 times. Okay, so the ref at that point needs to know, right? Clearly, they see the stress signals here. You've then got the towel being waved by Sugar Hill Stewart. You got the doctor jumps up on ringside, yells to the ref, wave it off, and the ref is like oblivious to his surroundings. So it's either you're gonna be cognizant of what's going on around you, or you need to be right in the middle of that action right there, stopping that fight. From he got punched and he fell and he basically flew back into the ropes, and his legs, and you saw his right leg do that little kick up, like he's got no balance at this point. That's when the ref should have jumped in, because even at that point when he was throwing back, they weren't even arm punches, like they had nothing on them at all. It was almost just like a reflex. But those punches weren't doing anything. All he was doing was taking a savage beating. So the ref was too slow to jump in. And then even after the towel came in, the ref still didn't even jump in. It's like he went to jump to touch Kusumano on the back, then he jumped back out. And then when Kusumano turned around thinking, oh, the refs just stopped it, that's when he goes and runs into like the whole thing was just a mishmash, like, unprofessional performance from the referee. I'm not, me, I'm a proponent of let them go out on their shield or submission, but ultimately the ref's job is not my job. That's what I want to see. But the ref was there, knows that fight is basically over from that point. The fight should have been over from the round before, but you carried on because you gave him that respect. he can't defend himself anymore. His arms are
Yeah,
down.
but the point is the fight that he let the Kownacki come back for the next round, and Kownacki showed enough just to say, yeah, you warranted the opportunity to come back for another round.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he came out and just
in that
suddenly
round,
started getting battered.
No, but when that round happened and he's getting battered in that round, because again, bear in mind, look, he didn't throw anything of any real significance at that point. Again, it was all arm punches again. So at that point, you then say, right, he's basically got nothing left in him. He's willing himself up, but he's not even protecting himself. If it was a case of he's throwing his arm punches, but he's blocking some and he's got his arms up, and then you can see he's kind of not taking a lot of stuff flush. Cool. But from you see he's still taking these punches flush, his arms are down, he's not defending things properly. After taking, a beating for the last 7 rounds, you need to jump in there and do it swiftly and effectively, which the ref didn't do. So that's my issue.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's a fair comment, and one which I think, I wouldn't complain if the fight was stopped 10 seconds earlier. I sometimes give the referee a little bit of leeway because you are focusing your laser focus on 2 guys. And if, your eyes are on one opponent, then your peripheral vision isn't seeing what's going on in the corner. So I'm going to just give him that little bit of leeway because he's a decent referee. It's not like he's always doing this, it's not like you can be, turn around and saying, oh, he's a terrible referee, he should never be licensed to referee boxing again. No, we're saying you made a mistake. The mistake can be explained because if your attention is focused 100% on the state of the fighter who is just about to be stopped, you're looking to see, is he going to throw something back? And his arm movements are enough for me to go, is he? And oh no, he's had enough. Yeah.
Again, that's the thing though, Tony. When you say that, the issue is it's not even like he jumped in and to stop the barrage. He didn't even jump. He went to jump and then move back. And then it's like it's only when Kusumano, I think he's felt the tap or he's heard someone say it's off, finish it, is when he's then jumped in to Kownacki. But if you was to look at the clip again, the ref doesn't even do his job to say, okay, that's enough now. Too late or not, he still waits in the back, almost like he's like, okay, I'm not getting involved in this, but that's your job, is to break them up.
Yeah.
I've seen him do some stuff before, but he's not one of the biggest culprits, so I'm not going to lay it all at his feet. I just think that particular point, if you were worried that maybe there's too much sort of mass in the ring for you, it's too big of these guys, you can't really control them, then maybe that's not the gig for you to accept in it, because that's what it looked like he was scared to break it up. But if that's the case, then don't take that fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, going back to the main core of the action, away from the stoppage, it was an entertaining fight. The 2 guys just literally hammering tongs at each other. Then neither of them are going to be what we consider to be elite heavyweight boxers, but considering their position, as what do we call them? Journeyman, maybe. I mean, Kownacki definitely falls into journeyman now because he's 4 losses on the spin.
Yeah, I mean, Kusumano isn't actually technically he's not a journeyman, but you can't really put him in any other category. He's not a fringe contender. He's not a gatekeeper. He's not a titleist. He's not a challenger. I don't know. I guess maybe journeyman is where you put him, or maybe there needs to be another ranking somewhere. We need to think of another category for boxers as well. But but the one thing I will say again, like, it wasn't a fight that stuck out. So, this is a great addition to the card. But I guess it made sense. Obviously, that Polish community in New York, Kusumano's got the Italian and the Sicilian sort of community as well over there. Then you had the Puerto Rican and the Irish. So that I think that whole card was made just to fill the arena with different demographics, and it worked. But that was a fun fight. I'll give them that. I said on the breakdown that I didn't really look at the card as anything spectacular, which I didn't. But I did actually go back and watch the other fights, and the first fight of the night was actually decent as well. Yankee Rivera and what's his name? I think Jose Robles, or I think
Christian
Robles.
Roberts.
Yeah, that was a good fight. The Rashat Matty fight was a sort of one-sided, but yeah, it was okay overall. It wasn't
And
the
you
great.
forgot to mention your guy Khalil Cole. I know you're a big fan of
I
Khalil
haven't
Cole.
up till now. I still haven't watched the whole fight. I've seen enough of it to see that he dominated, but I didn't watch the whole fight. I haven't watched the before the bell or anything because it just wasn't a card I was that interested in.
And it wasn't
I only watched it because I knew we'd have to talk about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have bothered. If I'm honest.
I mean, like yourself, I didn't really pay much attention to that card. And the Khalil Cole fight, again, like, I haven't seen the whole fight. I've just seen the highlights. And as you said, it looked like he was in total control and finished his opponent in the 7th round of the 8-rounder. So he goes on to 5-0 with 1 draw.
Cool. Right, now, let's move on to the one fight you saw that I haven't seen yet. I will be looking for a stream afterwards, but I will let you take this one away.
Okay, so the fight in question is Kazuto Ioka versus Joshua Franco, part 2. And there's loads of footage there. So they fought only in December of last year, on the 31st of December, and it was the slimmest of wins for Ioka. Two referees had it 114-114, and the one majority decision had it 113-115. So 1-round win for Ioka in the first fight.
It was a majority decision draw.
Franco
was the one that got the 115-113 scorecard.
My bad. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this was obvious. This was a world title fight for the WBA Superfly Championship. However, for those who didn't know, Joshua Franco weighed in 6 pounds overweight and was unable to qualify to win the title. So the only person who could win the title was Ioka, and Franco, unfortunately, lost his opportunity to win the title on the scales. Now, you've got some intel about what happened. Are you able to make at this point some commentary about what happened a week prior?
Yeah, so just to obviously clarify, Franco was the WBA super flyweight champ, so he lost his belt on the scale. He didn't just lose the opportunity to fight for it; he actually lost the title. Now I don't know 100% what the issue was, but I did hear that there was some issues happening in that fight, or the week of the fight. Something had taken place whereby I think they weren't sure that the fight was gonna continue. I think there was something happening in Japan, whether that was to do with part of the weight cut or something else. But he stopped. I think he stopped trying to cut weight for like a day, thinking that the fight was about to be off. And then when it got clarified that no, the fight would continue, I think he went to try and go back to get the weight off. But by that time, it was too late, and his body had kind of shut down on him. So I think he'd also had some health issues beforehand, trying to sort of make the weight, and then taking that day off when he didn't think the fight was going to go ahead. I think that's basically what killed him on the scales. And obviously, yeah, he came in 6.8 pounds over the limit, which is technically 2 weight classes above where he was fighting. So yeah, as I've said before, I don't normally give I don't accept when people, aren't professional enough to make the weight on the scales or whatever. I have sympathy for him because of whatever was going on, but ultimately you're the champion. You either make the weight, you pull out, or you vacate the fight and let someone else fight for it. But them's the breaks, and that's basically what I know of the situation. But yeah, again, I didn't watch the fight, so go ahead and talk for your breakdown.
Okay, so the way this fight panned out was this was a fight of a lot of punches. There was a lot of punches. I've actually got the punch breakdown, and the most punches were actually thrown by Joshua Franco. But the thing that I noticed from probably around round 3 onwards, was although Franco was punching with a lot of volume, he definitely didn't seem to have the snap and the power that Ioka seemed to have. And as a result, Ioka's punches caused much more of an effect in the arena. Now, I actually want to talk about what was going on in the arena, because I don't know if you've noticed this with fights in Japan, but effectively, this is almost like silence until the Japanese combatant hits the opponent. And then the crowd kind of seems like somebody waves a white flag and they all cheer at the same time, and then they all go mute at the same time. So you're kind of hearing silence and you got your commentary going on, and then you got a big shot by Ioka and the crowd go, "Ray!" And then it's dead quiet again. So it's kind of it kind of seems like a very strange environment at which the fight is being held, because of the sound coming from the arena. And all you're hearing in terms of noise is when Ioka is hitting and getting success, as opposed to when anything Franco gets. Whenever Franco gets success, there's nothing. It's complete silence. As you can see from the highlights I've managed to get, they're both managing to get through each other's defense. They're both hitting each other with regularity. But actually, it is Ioka who's getting the cleaner, harder shots in to both body and head. Whereas Franco, a lot of his shots are hitting gloves and falling short. There's a combination at one point that you might see, or you might have noticed, where Franco throws 3 right hands straight one after the other. But none of the shots has any significant purchase on it to move the head of Ioka. And it seems to me that, I don't know what's happened. I mean, considering that he's got a weight advantage, there's no power advantage in this fight for Franco, which you might expect something to, for him to gain some kind of power advantage as a result of being the heavier fighter on the night of the fight. Now, in terms of the scoring of the fight, this is an interesting fight because a couple of weeks back when we were talking about Haney Lomachenko, I was breaking down how you can get swing rounds. And this fight, interestingly, only 4 out of 12 rounds were scored unanimously to one fighter or the other. So let me break that down. Round 1, 2, 3, and 4, no 3 judges saw that those rounds the same. Round 5 is the first round when all 3 judges see it the same. That was an Ioka round. Round 6 and 7, no 2 judges see it the same. And then round 8, all 3 judges see it to Franco. Round 9, all 3 judges see it to Ioka. Round 10 and 11, no 3 judges see it the same. Then round 12, all 3 judges score it to Ioka. So it's very interesting because when I'm looking at this fight, there are points where I'm thinking, is the judge being swayed by the noise in the crowd? Because I certainly think Franco gets more rounds than he's actually credited with in this fight. And I still think Ioka wins it, but it's still a very close fight. And in fact, the rounds, there are at least 3 or 4 rounds, 3, maybe 4, that you could go, I could see how you could see that the other way. And that's clearly what's happening. There are rounds which are very close to scoring, and you have to make your choice between volume of punches and what you see as being accurate, or power shots and crowd pleasing punches. Yeah. So once again, for the last time, I'll just give you some footage so I can talk you through exactly what I've just explained, because you'll see quite clearly some of Franco's shots hit bang on the money, whereas probably more of Ioka's shots are showing that big right hand there, boom, Yeah. As you see, Franco threw 2 shots, neither one landed. Big shot there from Ioka on the gloves, misses there, comes around the outside, misses. Good defensive work from Franco. Big uppercut from Ioka, bang on the chin. 2 shots on a return from Franco, neither scores. Shots from Franco, but none of them is hitting anything. They're hitting gloves and midair. Again, Franco throwing punches, but nothing is actually doing anything. They're literally just tapping. Big left hook from Franco, and then slipping from Ioka. But in that exchange, volume wins because Franco's throwing more punches. And I think you get the gist. So I'm going to leave it there. Now, what I have got here is the breakdown from CompuBox of showing the punches, the punch stats. Franco's thrown 1,340 punches to Ioka's 886. But Ioka scores with 277 to Franco's 219. The hit rate is significantly higher with Ioka. Now, we all know sometimes CompuBox don't get their stats completely right. Again, looking at the jabs, Franco, 699 jabs, landed 77. Ioka, 415 jabs, landed 68. Higher percentage, but lesser jabs from Ioka. Top body punches, and this is where Ioka definitely wins. 644 thrown by Franco, 142 land. A lesser number thrown by Ioka, 471, but he lands significantly more, 209. And when he lands those body shots, they have more telling effect. They look crisper than when Franco gets those shots in. So interesting fight. Very technical. As you can see from the highlights, those two weren't hiding away from each other. They went at it for 12 rounds. Decent fight. But at the end of it, you see that there was damage sustained by Franco to his right eye. He gave his all. Although, you kind of think, well, what you're fighting for if you've lost your title on the scales. But that didn't detract from him making a gallant effort to try and win this fight. As I said, it's a close fight. He gave it his all. And unfortunately, it didn't quite work for him. Now, the upshot of that situation is that after the fight, Franco's had a thought to himself and he's decided to call it a day and has actually retired from boxing. And one of my slides has gone, but essentially he wrote a very well-worded letter to the public. For the majority of my career, I've been going through a lot of mental problems that I was doing the best to control. I never talked about it publicly because I didn't want anyone to think I ever made an excuse for anything or for anyone to look at me different. I battled for it as much as I could to still perform and give you guys some great fights. For anyone that battles through any type of mental health issues, please know you are not alone and you can't let anything stop you from achieving your dreams. I want to say thank you to my team, my mum, my dad, my brothers for all the help and support throughout my whole career. Everyone at RGBA for believing in me, helping me achieve my dreams. You guys always believe in me, and I will be forever grateful. Last night in Tokyo, Japan was officially my last fight. It was a tough week for me, and I didn't get the result I wanted, but I leave the sport knowing I gave it everything I had. So that was, to me, a very well put together letter. Obviously, I had no idea about the mental health situation that he's been battling with. But because I work with children with mental health, it is, to me, very important that we highlight that, you know what, this is a wonderful thing that a man who's been struggling with mental health has managed to get into a situation where he's got to his dreams and aspirations, and he's magnanimous enough to walk away from the sport having done what he needed to do, what he feels, and he has his health. Over to you, my friend.
Nothing really to add. I didn't see it. The only thing I could really say is with regards to the whole Japanese thing, like their culture is very much a they don't get loud. They don't necessarily cheer. They pay respect to their combatants by actually not making noise while the fight is going on. They make noise during the breaks. So when there's a break in action or there's like a break in rounds, that's when normally you'll get a little bit of noise and applause from like the Japanese. But outside of that, that they see the silence as a mark of respect to the pugilist. So obviously in this day and age, I guess things are slightly different, whereby they see more outside influences and maybe change some things, but ultimately that's why it's always silent in there. You'll get sort of they'll give you like a round of applause for like a good, like something that you've done well done, like a clean strike or a moment of great technical skill. It'll be, yes, a quick applause, and then they go back to silence. That's their culture, and ultimately you have to be ready for that. But I don't mind. I kind of respect it personally.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer our vociferous crowds that we have here in the UK. I've seen boxing all around the world. I enjoyed that camaraderie in the crowd that occurs. You can go to a boxing match and guaranteed you don't have to know anybody, but you're going to get talking with a whole bunch of people. I know that I've been out in the States many a time on my own and just got into conversation with all manner of people, whether they be stars, whether they be athletes, whether they just be Joe Public. And, it's always fun to talk about fights, during fights, find out what people are thinking, the way fights are going, so that is something that I appreciate, that, during the fight, there is a level of intrigue that creates a buzz within the crowd.
Okay.
Jam Down says any noise heard from the crowd in Japanese sports always seems orchestrated. Yeah, it does kind of sound that way because it's like, yeah, all at the same time, and then silence all at the same time. North Bank Bren says Franco jabbed off jabbed air for the vast majority of the fight. I think the scores were correct. Good technical fight. Excuse me. Iron Man comes in. What's a worse crowd, Japan or Saudi? Gotta be Saudi, he says.
No, Saudi make noise, to be fair, especially in wrestling events.
Okay, so that's that fight done. Let's move on to the next. Where do you want to go next, Space?
Well, there's only one place to go. It's the last fight of the night that both of us saw. So, I'm gonna let you head this one off, which is
So
Edgar
I've actually
Berlanga.
got 3 more fights
How
because
have you
I've
got
got.
3 more fights? We didn't watch 3 more fights.
Okay.
All right, you go. You all right? Whatever you've got there, you
I've
go,
got.
and then I'll do the
Okay,
last.
I'm gonna leave the big one to the end, but I do very quickly want to call out this fight.
See, I can never get out of here on time. All right, go on.
This is gonna be quick. So Julian J. Rock Williams taking on Carlos Adames. Um, this was the Showtime event, which I know you had a problem getting hold of, but here's a little bit of footage of what happened. This was a gunfight. This was a gun show. J Rock came out. He was on smoke. He came looking to, and you can see he wobbled Adames there with that overhand right. He's throwing the lever real hard. But Adames, he kept firm. He kept himself in the fight as best he could, and eventually found a way to hurt J Rock and stop him. What was it, round 9? There's a
Can't
stoppage
leave
coming.
dead air like that, Tony.
Yeah, like the folks them can enjoy that little bit of action that we've got. But yeah, this was an entertaining fight. I mean, J Rock obviously coming back from, you know, the wilderness, so to speak, trying to come back and become a prevalent force or a name at least in the division. Came across a very good champion in Carlos Adames. Gave it his all. As you saw, was cracking. Adames with some great shots himself, but alas, Adames is just that little bit too good. And people will now say, "Well, is that the end of J. Rock Williams?" I would say he's got plenty left in the tank. Going by that performance, he may not be a world titleist, but he's that guy that will cause problems for guys who are coming up through the division and hoping to get a crack at the world title. Any thoughts yourself, Base?
None
Cool.
whatsoever. Go for it.
Okay, so that's that. Then what else did we have that I wanted to mention? What was this one? Oh yeah, you didn't get that one in. I thought I'd prepare in case you wanted to say something about it. So that leaves us, yes, ladies and gentlemen, down to the last fight of the night, which is the big one from Saturday night, which was Edgar Berlanga facing Jason Quigley. Berlanga's debut on the Zone with Matchroom Promotions. He's been signed by Matchroom, and basically he was in against a decent foe in Jason Quigley. Nothing too tough. Obviously, Berlanga coming to Matchroom was hoping that he would get a crack at Canelo. But, Quigley was talking the talk before the fight. Alas, he was unable to deliver on what he was promising. But it was entertaining while it lasted. You want to go and tell us about what you thought about it, and then I'll come in after you, Base?
Yeah, sure. So, look, ultimately, I said when this fight was initially made, I won't lie. I mean, people probably saw. I was on Twitter. I slated Eddie for this matchmaking. I thought it was a poor fight to make. Not because, Jay Quigley is like horrendous or whatever, but ultimately Quigley is a career middleweight. Got knocked out in his last fight in middleweight in the second round. And then, sort of had one kind of gimme get back fight up at super middle a little earlier this year. And then, ultimately this is who you're putting in the ring with Berlanga. Now I said, look, I know that, yeah, I get it. It's nothing but like a showcase type fight almost to get Berlanga the more to get him back to this highlight reel knockout and to announce him to the public on the Zone or whatever. Well, unfortunately, that plan backfired because as you can kind of see, if you look at Jason Quigley as just an actual boxer, he's very much in the pure boxer mode. He's decent. He's got decent movement, decent punch placement, punch picking. His power's okay. He's got respectable power, but nothing major. But he's a mover. So if you're going to put Edgar Berlanga in the ring with a quote unquote a lesser opponent for the opportunities of a highlight reel knockout, which is what you're after, like why are you putting him in there against someone that moves when you know that Edgar Berlanga doesn't have good movement? He doesn't have good foot positioning. He doesn't have that good of a stance. He doesn't have a good defense. His offense is limited, yet but it is very powerful. There's not a huge amount of technical aspects in his game for you to say that okay, that was the right matchup to make in this instance, especially if you wanted him to look good and be your next star. Essentially, the matchmaking they did when it was the 16 first round knockouts back to back, that's the kind of people you have to put him in there with. Not necessarily that level, that quality, but people who are flat-footed, who aren't movers, who will kind of sit and want to have a go, who will come forward with a high guard and let you try and pick punches on them. Anyone who's gonna have movement is not the way to go. So anyway, so I said all of that previously that I thought it was a terrible matchup, and I made no secrets about that. The fight itself, it played out less impressive than I thought. I thought that Berlanga would get a stoppage. I didn't see there be any reason how you don't like get Jason Quigley out of there. Like against any decent level of opposition, he's supposed to get dispatched, especially if that person has punch power. Like I said, Demetrius Andrade got him out in 2 rounds, and he's known for going the distance with most people. So that tells me the levels that I thought Berlanga was at, like he's even lower than those levels at this point in time. And to be honest, at this point, all I really want to see from him is either the Mungia fight, because I know for nothing else that would be highly entertaining. Both of them are probably as technically deficient as each other with very little defense, but it will be a very fun, entertaining scrap in the middle of the ring. And Berlanga should have the advantage based on being a naturally bigger guy, even though he's had the lesser amount of fights. But I want to see that fight. And then ultimately, if he gets through that one, I just want to see him get fed to Diego Pacheco to rise Pacheco's star, because he's the next one up in the game. I have no hopes for Berlanga moving forward. The fight, like I said, it under delivered on what I wanted. 4 knockdowns aside, 2 of them weren't even proper knockdowns, if I'm honest. So even
Yeah.
that being said, makes me say you're not that guy. There was no. This was your moment to at least give you like a certain type of profile. Didn't take it. Slow, ponderous. Couldn't cut the ring off. Couldn't adjust to someone that was essentially doing the same thing every night. All you had to do one slight adjustment, and you could have finished that fight about 6 or 7 rounds earlier than you did, because Quigley kept dipping to the exact same side. And even at one point, you caught him dipping to that same side, and then you couldn't catch him again for 9 rounds doing the exact same thing, even though he didn't change his style. And you got hit with shots that you should have never got hit with from someone who was in a position and a stance that he was in at that time. So yeah, I have no hope left for him. Get him in with Munguia. If you can't do that, cash him out against Pacheco, and let's see a proper Puerto Rican in Sudrian Matias, because that's who I'll put my hopes and my grades and my cash in moving forward. Go for it, Tony.
Right. I mean, you're a bit down on Edgar Berlanga. In all honesty, I kind of was hoping that he would impress more. I'm putting Edgar Berlanga in the same boat as Zerdo Ramirez. In my opinion, they're never gonna be. They talk the talk, but they're never gonna be able to walk the walk. Quite simply, I also expected Berlanga to knock out Jason Quigley. Seeing the way that Andrade dealt with Quigley, as you said, and knowing that, yeah, Quigley is a good mover. He's a decent boxer, but he's not a pressure fighter. He's not a big puncher in any way. And obviously, Berlanga, with 16 KOs out of his 20, I was expecting him to roll over on Quigley at some point in time. I expect him to be able to work out timing, increase the intensity of his attacks as the fight goes on, and that's the one point that he didn't seem to do. His intensity at the whole fight was the same. I can get you out of there, but I'm never going to press the pedal. Yeah, if I catch you, great, but I'm never going to go, oh, let me empty the tank, for 10 seconds and see if I can actually get you out of there. I will more and more likely try to prod you and find that one hitter quitter, as opposed to saying, you know what, I need to take this guy out with a flurry and sustained attack. So from that perspective, I'm not really sold on Berlanga. As I said, I was hoping for a decent performance, because hell, there weren't a great amount of boxing the weekend to watch. So I was kind of hoping that this was going to be an entertaining fight. Not much else to say on that one, to be honest. He as you said, 2 of them 4 knockdowns were definitely not knockdowns. He hurt Quigley, but he ends up pushing him to the floor. So those not two of those knockdowns should not have been called knockdown. They should have been called as a push. But he still won the fight. Where he goes from now, you've pretty much explained the roadmap. I don't think there's anything other than Munguia and Pacheco in his eye line based on where he is on the side of the street. So let's just see where it goes. That is it. That's all I've got to say on it.
If he didn't get the knockdown in the 5th and one of the knockdowns in the 12th, you do realize that he would have lost that fight on the cards, right? Or it would have been a majority decision win to Jason Quigley, because he was winning those 2 rounds. He was even winning the round in the 3rd when he got knocked down, but that was a legitimate one. So I mean, yeah, he's just not that guy. Like I said, cash him out now while he's got a little bit of buzz left.
Yeah. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is our rundown of the weekend fights. As I said, if you haven't seen it, the heavyweight battle between Kownacki and Kusumano, very entertaining fight. If you can go find that, if you haven't seen it, hopefully we'll get a better set of fights to be able to report back to you on next week, because we have better action this weekend coming up.
Yeah, well, there's 3 big cards on this weekend. Well, so we obviously, you guys know we don't necessarily speak about it, but one thing we will speak about for next week is this little gem which Tony did display yesterday on Monday Night Smoke. But Nonito Donaire will be gracing the show next week. Now, it will actually be taking place on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. We will make sure that is notified several times throughout this week and next week as well. Reason being, I'm the one that changed the date. He said he was happy to come in Tuesday, but ultimately I'm away on a training course on the Tuesday, and for me to kind of do the course and then try and sort all this stuff when I'm gonna be away from home, away from the normal setup, it just probably wasn't right for the show. So we've changed the date. So yeah, but ultimately what we might actually do, we haven't decided yet, but there might still be something that happens on Tuesday, and then this might be something separate. So we'll talk about that in the background. But yeah, make sure that you tune in next week, Wednesday, regardless, because this will be taking place. The Filipino Flash himself, Nonito Donaire, will be on the show. I'm not sure how long we've got him for on the show, but we will be speaking as much as we can about sort of the career, the ups, the downs, and the goal to be a 5-weight world champion. But yeah, we'll address all of that next week. So for those of you who constantly watch and tune in and support, we thank you, and that's why we had to try and get a heavy hitter on the show, just to show that your support and your constant sticking around with us throughout the late hours. Even when we change the time of the show, it's all appreciated, and we want to do the best and give the best content we possibly can in this current scenario.
Cool. So guys, as always, on the bottom of the screen right now, you can see the social media links for Base. Please do go ahead and subscribe to his YouTube channel. You can just type in Base.
Become a member now. We got membership.
You do know I'm a member, right? You do know I'm a member.
I didn't see that. I'll have to go through the memberships. I give you a shout on the next members only video.
I'm a paid up member, my friend. So yeah, the content is worth it. There's no doubt in my mind that as far as boxing journalism is concerned, Base is right up there. I enjoy his commentary. I think his intel is second to none. As he mentioned earlier, nobody else was talking about some of the fights that he's been calling. So without a doubt, join his membership if you can, because you will be in for good stuff.
Appreciate it.
He's also on Twitter. He's also on Instagram, as you can see below.
Yeah, so if you want me on Twitter, it's B_A_S_E, but you can just type in BaseDaKID, and I am the first person that shows up. So please do. Instagram, I don't really post much on there, but occasionally you might get some decent nuggets of content. So yeah, if you want to join that, feel free. BaseDaKID as well. But yeah, BaseDaKID on YouTube. That's the main one. The hardcore casual, getting those numbers, getting those subscriptions, and yeah, Tony, you get a shout in the next members only video.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So if you want to follow me, guys, I'm not so present on YouTube, but my Instagram is quite full. Pugilistic boy as opposed to pugilist boy. Pugilist boy on Twitter, pugilist boy on YouTube, pugilistic boy on Instagram. So, ladies and
Jam Down is
gentlemen,
trolling in the comments. He said, "Well done, Tony, for getting the nail on the show. Full credit to you." Earlier on, he said, "No, Tony, take all the credit because if I wasn't there to claim it at the time, that's my business." That's what he. So now he's doubling down. Right, Jam Down. I see you. It's fine. Very funny. We got New Orleans Moses. Oh, new member to the channel. Bless up to you. I think you might have been one of the new guys on Monday Night Smoke yesterday. So didn't see that. So that's a good one.
okay,
But
it's fired in a question for me. I can see that I can answer very quickly. Who's your favorite heavyweight of all time? Easily Muhammad Ali. Currently, Alexander Usyk.
Okay, and he says to me, Base, who's your favorite welterweight? Well, currently my favorite welterweight is Terence Crawford. No real debates about that one. Yeah, I'll answer my question, pugilist. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that question's now been answered. So yes, thank you very much for watching, guys. We and if there are any ladies in the chat, I've noticed one of our main lady audience members. She left a little while ago, but I'll have to see where she's at. But anyway, yeah, people, bless up. Thank you very much for rocking with us. That's been the show, and we will catch you next week. Peace.